Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BioDevils podcast. My name is Eli, and I am joined by a panel of boomer shooters, fanboys. To kick things off, let's introduce DevilHunterJames.
Hi, how's it going?
We got Divic.
Hello, I am here to boom and to shoot.
We got Eviga, also known as Levy.
I'm here to shoot but not go boom.
KaptainKaos.
What's going on, guys?
And Sir Brandel.
I'm just here to coom, all right?
Who isn't?
Boomer shooter.
Right?
That's another genre, I'm sure.
I love how it's like that's how we called this podcast. It's like nobody brought up that except for Brandon.
Okay.
I have a mod for that. I think it's called H Doom, but I don't know.
I know, I was about to bring that up.
Or Doom. Okay. To start off, what was your first experience into the boomer shooter genre?
Doom.
Coom, yeah, you name it. Yeah, my first ever experience though was honestly either Doom or Quake.
Same. Yeah, it's just same for me. Like, it's either Doom or Quake. Because I remember playing, like, it's probably more so Doom, because, like, I played Doom so much, the first one. Mostly because there's so many versions of that game. Like, you could even play it. I remember, like, it's like there's a Flash version of it, I think. You could just play it. I was literally playing it on, like,
calculator
on a school computer.
Calculator. The TI calculator.
Yeah.
There's a thing. I thought it was a joke.
And then I played some of Doom too, because it came with the I think it came with Doom 3, if I'm not mistaken, the original
Doom 3 BFG edition.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I played some of that too.
So here's where we can get really technical on the term boomer shooter, because my first boomer shooter I ever played was Half-Life, the first game.
Is it though?
Yeah, I would say not. It's not, just because, like, to me, a boomer shooter, it's like a fast-paced shooter where, you know, you're just...
It's also more arcadey.
Yeah, like Half-Life isn't really like that, so I don't know if I'd really consider it a boomer shooter.
Half-Life's more of a story-driven game anyway.
An adventure game with shooting elements and puzzle elements.
I would personally do consider it partially because it does take inspiration from that genre. On top of
it does have elements of a boomer shooter, you know.
Well, it's
health
a transitional period, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking first-person narrative, unbroken first-person narrative in a Quake engine game. So it's got its Quake DNA, but it's just got kind of a little more story attached to it. I mean, I would throw it in fucking boomer shooter, whatever.
It's kind of like the modern Wolfenstein games, because those, you know, just like Doom, uses old playstyle, but unlike Doom, it has a more narrative to it, though. So that's why I would consider Half-Life a boomer shooter.
If we're talking about legit boomer shooter, it would have to be Doom on the Xbox Live Arcade. Remember that port?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm iffy on this one, because I started Doom with 2016, so I'm going to say Halo 1. Does Halo 1 count? I don't know.
I think you consider that like
it's
an
hard to
arena
describe
shooter.
Actually,
No. I'm just talking boomer shooter in general.
Oh,
I mean, it technically is. Technically,
I don't know. 2001. I'm not sure.
Halo kind of sits in the post Half-Life era, right? Where you started to get more of a narrative focus and all that. Like, yeah, you could, in all honesty, you could probably make the argument purist. Like, on any other day, I would fight you to the death. But I mean, early shooters like that, and since shooters have kind of moved so far past what the original Halo was, I mean, it's fair to say it. It's not like 100%, you know.
I only said it because I felt like it was just arcadey enough to make it. That might not be valid, though.
well, it's just like 21 years old now. It's old enough to drink.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it's definitely got its freaking grandpa years now.
Oh, yeah.
Halo's the type of 21-year-old though. Say, I'm going to get fucked up, drinks 2 beers, and goes, I'm fucking up.
But if you want me to list a game I played unequivocally seriously that can't be argued it's a boomer shooter, it had to be Doom 2016.
That's most people's like first introduction to Doom, except for maybe Doom.
Like, I knew of Doom and like Wolfenstein way back when, but it wasn't on my radar when I was a kid. So it's one of those things I came into later.
I forgot if the first boom shooter I played was either Doom or Duke Nukem 3D, because both of them were those on the Xbox Arcade.
You know, I'm surprised that nobody said their first boomer shooter was Chex Quest.
I'm surprised no one said Wolfenstein or fucking Quake.
Well,
Yeah, Wolfenstein was first though, but really no, just it feels more obscure compared to
I'm
Doom.
definitely not that old. But before I talk about my boomer shooter experience, I have to crack a monster and
Is there a sugar one?
Back in 1993, I remember my parents had a Gateway computer, and one of the first things that was on that computer was Doom. It was crazy, and it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid because it's creepy as fuck when you're 6 or 7 years old. And from like that point on, almost every like major shooter that came out, whether it was build going into Quake, going into like Quake 2 and all that kind of stuff, I had it on my computer. So like Doom hooked me into everything, got me into Doom 2, got me into Shadow Warrior. Was actually a gift from my aunt because she thought the racist Lo Wang shit was really funny. I mean, it is still pretty funny, but
It still is, yeah.
Bro.
But I mean, Duke Nukem. And one time I was at my dad's office and he put Quake on his computer and I was playing Quake like at his law firm. Like, I mean,
You are the law now.
Basically, yeah. But it started with the OG. I wasn't old enough for Wolfenstein, but when Doom rolled around, it was the only thing I played on my computer for like a year straight.
And it's a good game.
It's still a good game.
To prepare for this podcast, I literally ran through Doom 1 on PC.
It's good.
Me, I just
Fucking hard.
And me, I was playing a game that I don't know if you would call it a boomer shooter or a rhythm game, but I was just playing Metal Hellsinger, which could be a rhythmic boomer shooter, like BPM.
I mean, yeah, given the musical side of things, you could consider that a rhythm game in its own right.
Oh yeah, it has great fucking music. It has great fucking artists in it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little shooter. Okay.
I'll say more boomy shooty.
So, starting off with number 2, take it away, James.
Is your favorite boomer shooter series or single game?
Blood.
I'm just gonna be lame and go at 2016 because that one really blew me away, quote unquote.
So I've got the hottest it takes. I prefer Quake over Doom as a series.
Hey, that's fine.
Wow, you evil
Quake's
heathen.
good.
That's fine. You do you, man.
I fucking love
Quake. I'm in definitely all the internet camp though. Quake is good, but in my honest opinion though, unironically, it does not age well for my taste.
Yeah, like Quake, I feel like it needs like a resurgence, kind of like Doom.
It does, yeah.
Like, because I mean, I feel like there's more. I think there's more Doom games than there are Quake. Because I mean, there's Quake 2, and then there's Arena. So it's mostly like known as like the multiplayer shooter, and people don't know it so much for the the older games. Before, I guess it was like it dipped into the multiplayer stuff. So I kind of would like to see another, like a new game, I guess, where it goes back to like having campaign and then like, also having multiplayer, I guess. Kind of like the new Doom.
I would actively campaign for Quake to gain the Doom 2016 treatment.
Actually, I think the first Quake game I played was Quake 4, but I never beat it. Yeah,
Quake 4 is decent.
Yeah, Quake 4 was good. It's just it was a little bit different from the other. It felt like it kind of went more the Doom 3 direction, and that it was more like
it was definitely Doom 3 for Quake games.
Yeah,
but
and it was more like a squad shooter, sort of, where like you just had you hired your squad with you, and it wasn't. I don't know. It was pretty different, but I enjoyed what I played of it. I never beat it though. I need to go back and beat that game.
I was gonna say honestly, if I say my favorite boomer shooter I'll stick with Doom, the first one, and then later on, if I say more recent, I would probably either say Metal Hellsinger or Dusk.
Dusk is Dusk is like right up there with Quake for me.
Yeah,
Dusk.
I'll have to be I'll have to agree with the majority and say mine was also Doom, but as of recently, like my favorite is probably also Dusk or a medieval, like which I think technically that counts.
It does.
Yeah. So either one of the two. I mean, I really enjoyed a medieval, and impatiently waiting for that goddamn DLC, like the Black
Same.
Labyrinth, which I have no idea when they're planning to release that because they've teased it for a while, but I just have no idea when it's going to actually come out. But yeah,
if I have to pick across all the time I've put into these kinds of games, it's probably Doom 2 because I have 40 or 50 gigs worth of wads that are mostly Doom 2 compatible. And Doom 2 has the super shotgun, so Doom 2 is the pinnacle of any kind of Doom formula. The original Doom's great, but Doom 2 just pushes it to the point where it needs to be. So that's the one I go back to the most. If I have to pick my absolute favorite, though, like for feel and all that kind of stuff, it's probably Blood.
Blood's a great one.
Blood is pure build engine goodness. Throwing dynamite and slapping cultists with a double-barreled shotgun, it's incredibly fun. It still like holds up to this day.
Like, to quote a very popular boomer shooter like enthusiast, part of the holy trinity of build engine games.
Yeah, but yeah, Blood really good. Not the second one, just the first one. Build engine Blood is where it's at.
Still need to play Blood. Didn't have enough time.
There's Blood Fresh Supply.
Oh yeah. I have it installed. I just didn't have enough time this week.
Oh, good. At least you
I was
have
busy.
it.
I was busy playing Doom 1 and Quick 2.
Blood Fresh Supply, is that like a remaster, or is that
All it is just for the longest time, because Blood was in legal hell with Monolith and a couple of other companies. I think Atari or maybe somebody else, I'm not sure. Maybe. The only way to really play Blood reliably was either GDX or just use DOSBox. Somebody tried to make something called N-Blood, which remakes Blood in the Doom engine, and it's bizarre. Like, it's if you play the original Blood and then you play N-Blood, you're like, this is like Bizarro Land Blood. Everything feels off and weird. So Fresh Supply it's Night Dive, and so it's basically a source port for Blood. Which,
okay. Yeah.
If I have to thank Night Dive for anything, it's Blood, and it's also bringing Quake into its modern source port without having to use like any of the other kind of source ports that are out there that have their own problems with bringing everything to modern. So the Blood source port is incredibly good. It's super mod friendly. Awesome, like fantastic across the board. Best way to play the game now.
Great.
Okay. I think that's a good segue for question number 3.
Oh, I didn't answer the question actually.
Oh, my bad, Phone.
Yeah. So the obvious answer probably gonna be Doom as far as favorite series, because that series was consistently always have been good, even with 3 being like the sore spot in series. Though you cannot say there's a bad Doom game in the franchise.
I still don't get why people say 3 is bad, because it doesn't play like the other ones, but it's like this.
Yeah, it's not a bad game.
I actually, I enjoyed 3.
Super moody, atmospheric, like pretty scary game. Also, it got ported into VR, and it's one of the scariest things you could play on a VR headset.
Oh, if we're going to talk about bad Doom games, Doom VFR is kind of meh.
Anyway, sorry, Brandel, you were saying.
That's why I, generally speaking, enjoyed the Doom series the most, just because, I played Doom 64 recently. Fucking love that game. That game
that's a good one.
So good.
Yeah, but even with Doom 3 and its fiasco, though, it's still technically not a bad game. It's just a different game. Arguably not a Doom game. Who you ask?
It's not really. It's probably just not the type of Doom people want.
It's the one where it followed narrative.
Remember what its big competitor was, because at the time it was
Halo.
Doom 3 and Half-Life 2.
Oh yeah.
Half-Life 2 went with their source engine to do physics. Doom went with id Tech 3, which was lighting, which gave us kind of a bunch of other stuff like the Dark mod for modern thief modding and all that kind of stuff. And it's an impressive looking game, but I mean, physics went out. So everybody kind of sealed Doom's fate for a little while at least.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget too. Metal Gear came out around the same year. Was it 2?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it was going against big competition.
Heavy competition.
And ultimately lost. But yeah, that being said, we could go ahead and move on to the next question. Eli?
Okay. Since you mentioned it, Brandon, why don't you read number 3?
Do I have to? All right, fine. Is there any particular engine in genre do you find most fond of, or whatever? Honestly, no. I don't have necessarily a bias when it comes to the technical side of things, but I guess if I go with the common engine, maybe IdTech or Quake engine.
I would.
So yeah, when it comes to technical side of things, I generally am not in that type of session.
Yeah, I don't really have a preference, but I feel like Build is just the most iconic, just because a lot of the most notable like boomer shooters come from the Build engine.
Agreed. I was going to say that. Not agree. Same with all of y'all. I don't really have a particular fondness over all the engines, but I would have to agree with the Build engine being like the most iconic. But also, if it wasn't for the Build engine, we wouldn't have such great games like Shadow Warrior, Blood, Duke Nukem.
Yeah, and then there are games that are actually like, they could still be made with the Build engine, such as Ion Fury. So I mean, it's a pretty impressive engine in that regard.
Oh yeah.
So I was going to mention the Source engine, because that's basically, isn't that what Quake was went on?
No, Source was Half-Life 2. Quake ran on its own proprietary engine.
Okay.
It was either known as IdTech 2 or the Quake engine.
Fair enough. Okay.
So I put this in here so I could nerd out a little bit, because doing a lot of modding and all that kind of stuff, I'm kind of like really familiar with the minutia of some of these engines. So Quake engine is fucking incredible for the fact that it basically exists in every little piece of engine that exists right now. Like if you take any modern game and you dig down into it, there's a little bit of Quake's DNA somewhere in that engine. Like basically pioneered and pushed things forward. Build is a personal favorite because Build has this weird way of treating explosions, and it has camera shake and all this other weird, like these weird little things that happen in the engine, that makes it like when you toss like dynamite at a bunch of cultists and they go flying out. They're, the little 2D models go flying out, smashing against walls, and your screen shaking and all that kind of shit. Build has like really weird physics with explosives and firearms, so like I love it to death, unequivocally. And then the Doom engine, simply because of the GZ Doom and how it's 2022 and people are still using the Doom engine to make modern games. I mean, today I was playing a golfing game using the Doom engine. I mean, it's seriously, it's insanity. So I like a little bit of everything. I can't like push one or the other. But if I had to pick one, the Build engine, because it's just ridiculous. And for those of you that played Ion Fury, when you see something like explode or a series of explosions, it's nuts.
Oh yeah,
like even in a 20-year-old engine, it's crazy.
I'm just imagining like a crossover between Doom and a golfing game. The Doom guys like playing golf.
Whole and one,
it's fun.
But there's nothing left.
That's why I'm like, how does that even work?
A Doom in one.
Wah, wah.
Okay.
What about you, James? What's your engine that you're particularly fond with, or same answer?
I guess I have the most experience with IdTech. Mostly on the later scale with like, it's not a boomer shooter, but like the Evil Within had it. Doom, obviously. I have a little bit of experience with Quake, just a bit, because Sting got it for me, so I messed with it. The engine's pretty lit too.
What's also impressive in regards to Quake is the if anybody's played Quake 2 RTX, like I'm pretty sure not many people have an RTX card, but it's
I have tried it.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like what I mean, and it's just such an old game. They've been able to just with ray tracing bring it back to look like it does. I mean, it
shows the flexibility of the engine, even though it's old. Technically,
yeah, for sure.
Honestly, I kind of want to lean towards like what Divic was saying about the Build engine, how it came to like explosions. Honestly, I think the models, like for gun models for the Build engine, they're just so good.
Also, the bit crunch sound effect too.
That too.
Mm-hmm. Everything with the Build engine makes everything sound so crunchy. You know what I mean?
Crunchy like a churro.
You got a lot like cultic.
Yeah, it's that real like old school feel. Like it, having that limited soundboard and all that kind of shit. Like really bit crunched, all that shit. It's great.
Very good.
I think with that out of the way, Divic, why don't you read off number 4?
If you
Can do. Some boomer shooters are known for their modding scene, Doom being one of the largest. Do you have any experience with mods, levels, or any user-created content?
I'm going to abstain from this one. I don't have experience when it comes to that.
Mine would just be probably just the dark mod, just because Thief.
Yeah.
I needed to get Yamagi working for Quake 2 to get it running at a proper resolution. Oh, and for the soundtrack, obviously, because I did not want to play that game with no music.
I guess Gary. I have to count Gary's mod, right? It's right off source.
Does Gary's mod count?
I mean,
I would say that like Source has enough of Quake in it that probably.
Yeah, Half-Life. Wasn't Half-Life
then the billion mods off of that engine alone.
All right. Then I take that back. Gary's mod.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Gmod.
Yeah, I didn't put that much time into it either.
I I have put an embarrassing amount of time into modding, some map building, and gathering up everything from source ports to total conversions for mostly Doom. There's definitely some Quake in there. Before Power Slave got its actual release, where it's this big amalgamation of all this like weird stuff in the build engine, what was on the Genesis. There was an old version of Power Slave that was really great. Duke Nukem mods. I mean, like I was just looking at my folder with all my Boomer Shooter stuff in it, and given how small these games initially were, it's nearly a 70 gig folder. So that should tell you how much crap I have in regards to just Doom 2 alone. It's one of the things that has kept the game alive for so long. There's a really on Doom World, actually, every year on Doom's birthday, there's something called the CAC Awards. So all these creators and all that can get recognition and are recognized by the community for their stuff, and people come up with the craziest shit every year. It gets nuttier and nuttier. And it's not just conversions, but it's levels. So it's like if I'm ever bored and I have no idea what to play, I hop on Doom World and I grab a random WAD or a random level pack and I just start going through it. Like I've been doing that for the last like 10 years, 10, 15 years now.
I have dabbled in a few mods though, but I don't remember your name, sadly, because it was a while ago when I've been modding Doom. But the one that had the most, this is the most infamous mod, the one I spent the most time with was Age Doom, because I had no idea what Age Doom was. So when I I forgot what prompts you to start initiating the nasty with one demons. But when that happened, bro, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was literally the most experienced mod I played. So after I finished my first playthrough, I deleted it. I was not touching that game again. It was so weird.
It's the best way to play Doom.
I'm Doom Slayer, not Doom fucking.
No, you're Doom Layer. Let's get that straight. Okay. Levy, why don't you read out number 5?
Yeah, fine. What elements makes a good Boomer Shooter? Explosions.
A good shotgun.
Fast paced, huge arsenal of weapons. The gunplay is really fun.
And also if it runs
It's
smooth.
challenging, but not in an unfair way. I feel like Doom Eternal is like, I guess I would say the modern like prime example of how to do that right.
Dusk did it pretty well as well.
Yeah.
Just everything from atmosphere to the core mechanics. Nailed it.
Just anything that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, mechanically, it needs to be fast paced. Yeah, got a good arsenal. But more importantly, though, it needs to have a good variety of difficulties. Because you guys mentioned Doom. So the game could be pretty easy on the easiest difficulty though, for super rad challenge. But if you want that ball busting challenge, then you play on the hardest mode. That one life mode, I forgot what it's called. Yeah, so that's the core things for boomer shooters. Arsenal, difficulties, well done mechanics, and so on and so forth. So generalization of it.
I think Sulaco has a mode like that where you can't get a life unless you like pay a vendor for like a save.
And you can't save unless you have X credits that you use at like a certain machine.
Yeah.
Boomer shooter for me always has like there's a quintessential arsenal. You've got a melee weapon, you got like your pistol, your starting weapon, you know, when you die you start with it, or your beginning chapter weapon. You have a shotgun, which is usually like the workhorse of the game. So you have your shotgun or super shotgun. I mean, the super shotgun is the hardest thing to beat ever in any shooter, regardless of whether it's a boomer shooter or modern shooter. There's almost nothing that beats super shotgun from Doom 2.
Pretty much.
You have your fast firing weapon. You've got your explosive weapon. You've got your crowd control weapon. And then you've got your fuck you button, whatever that may be. Like, you know, for the Doom and the Quake games, you've got the BFG. I know for Blood, you've got the Voodoo staff and the napalm launchers. For Duke, you have, I forgot what Duke has. Duke has a fuck you button, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
The Ripper?
No, the Ripper's like your crowd control. That's like your I need to clear this shit out fast button. But anyway, difficulty should be like your normal difficulty is normal, and then once you start to pump it above that, like that should be kind of the standard, because you have your normal Doom is like, what is it? Hurt me plenty. It's kind of baby piss mode, in all honesty. Like ultra violence is kind of the gentleman's way to play, so to speak. So harsh but fair. Boomer shooters over everything else reward proper crowd control and proper like mechanical efficiency. So if you're good at that, it should not be a hard game. Like it's not about memorizing where enemies are. It's about enemy prioritization. So you have a group of enemies in a room and you go, okay, I need to take those guys out first before I, you know, kill the cannon fodder guys, because those guys can hit me from across the room with hit scan or something like that. And really good level design. It really depends on the area you're looking at, because you have Doom, which is way more mazy, and then you have things like Quake and the Build Engine games, which tried to create kind of a real looking environment, you know, where you're in like a police station or a skyrise or a town or something like that. But just generally good level design, and then secrets within those levels, like, is always super fun. Whether they be little nods or they be kind of, you know, things you have to discover, busted walls and stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the secrets. That's kind of another staple of the boomer shooter, is like the secret areas.
Yeah,
you find like a cracked wall and you're like, oh shoot, I can totally like blow this up and do, you know, a thing here. Like in Sulaco recently, there's an MRI room that like is just there. But if you take something metallic and you throw it in there, you open up a secret, like that kind of stuff. Because it's an MRI machine, so it just blows everything up. And you end up busting open a portion of the wall, and it's a secret part of the level, like that kind of stuff.
I liked 2016 secrets because they were all just callbacks to OG Doom.
The little action figures.
Where you're going
They just
through the old levels.
Yeah, they just you just break down, like the new graphics is breakdown. It's like, oh, welcome back to ye olden days immediately.
Oh, hey, nostalgia hit. Thanks.
I like that. Is just impressive how they pulled that off.
It was cool. It was something they didn't need to do, and they totally like nailed it. Is the neatest thing.
If that's gone.
Well, I was going to say, like, for most boomer shooters out there, it's like if none of those are in your boomer shooter, you're doing something wrong.
Especially the sequence.
Yep.
Like, every game this week I played has had sequence in it.
Which is definitely needed.
Exactly. So moving on to number 6, Chaos. Why don't you go ahead and take care of that?
Okay. There's been a slew of boomer shooters released in the last few years, with both remakes and original titles. What else would you like to, what else would you like to see brought back or given new life in a current or classic engine? I think I did mention, Quake.
Quake needs to get that Doom 2016 treatment.
Yeah,
like especially in the current engine. I'd love to see that kind of atmosphere done right in today's technology.
Yeah, because
isn't Quake 2 coming back again?
Night Dive, I think that's in development.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but that's an old game, though. I want them to build up like they did with Doom 2016, like a fresh take on the series.
Done it with Shadow Warrior as well.
Oh yeah, Shadow Warriors. I don't know why I didn't bring that game up. That's probably another one.
Because it is a boomer shooter technically.
That completely slipped my mind. It's a boomer shooter.
I forgot about that too. Don't worry.
Which game?
Shadow Warrior.
Shadow Warrior. Especially the I don't know if they're remakes, but
the first game at least.
Kinda.
Second game, not so
like
much.
A reboot. Yeah.
I still like 2. All right.
And 2 is more of a looter shooter than anything.
It's much like Borderlands.
I've heard mixed things about 3, but I haven't played 3 yet. So
3 kind of goes back to like the boomy shooty type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, Shadow Warrior is pretty sick though.
It is, but there are some people that will say it's not as good as the original.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I'll be.
Well, I'm afraid we're gonna have to fight about it, even though I haven't played the original.
And because the original one is like, hey, welcome to the game, and it immediately kicks you in the balls. But if you learn how to kick back and block the nut shots, it's incredibly rewarding, very fun. A lot of off-color humor in it that probably people today would find super offensive, but it's not like it's not being mean about it. It's all in good fun, I guess is how you'd say it.
Like it's not taking itself too seriously with it.
It's not taking itself seriously at all. It's just an homage to goofy like Hollywood kung fu movies and all that kind of shit. Just like how Blood is an homage to horror movies and Duke Nukem is an homage to 80s action movies. That's all it is.
And Blood is like the horror movies, like B action horror movies.
Yeah.
Blood would be one I'd like to see come back to.
I would honestly love to see, and this one again, it sits kind of on the border of boomer shooter, but I definitely kind of include it in that because it's like maybe the last boomer shooter in my eyes. Return to Castle Wolfenstein. If Return to Castle Wolfenstein got a modern engine, had good speed to it, I would love that because that game still, like, I was just playing it the other day and it still kicks ass.
There is like a I guess I should have mentioned this in terms of mods, but there is kind of like a fan like remaster type thing. It's like a real Return to Castle Wolfenstein.
That mod is fantastic.
Yeah, which is really good.
That's how I was playing it. I was getting footage the other day and I was playing it that way. There's definitely
that IORTC.
No, IORTC is the source port kind of version of it. It keeps everything the same, and then but real Return to Castle Wolfenstein, it's actually on Steam, and as long as you own a copy of it, you can just download it and play it. It's really, really good.
I wish they would bring back Chex Quest.
I'm pretty sure Brutal Chex Quest exists, so you could probably find that somewhere.
No, I want like Chex Quest with the fucking goddamn
the Doom Eternal engine.
Yes. I want that to happen. Like if someone makes that, I don't care if it's the money because it was free anyway. I would pay money just to play a fucking Chex Eternal game.
Eternal, okay.
I would play that. It's like Doom Eternal was really good. It was a shame that it got completely snubbed out of anything that it could have won. It was still amazing.
And
was this at the Rigged Awards?
The Game Rig Awards, yeah.
Yeah, that's why. Nothing good actually win.
True. Get blue.
Oh hey, fucking Divic found it.
There you go.
Brutal Chex Quest.
I told you it's on Doom World.
Yeah, it's everywhere, dude.
I'll be the one to say it. I think Duke Nukem needs to make an actual comeback.
As long as Gearbox.
Difficult given how it went. last
Yeah.
time.
Duke
I mean,
Nukem
they're
forever.
owned by Embracer Group right now.
I thought Duke Nukem was owned by Randy Pitchford.
Well, Embracer owns the Gearbox, the Duke Nukem IP, not Gearbox. I think they also own Gearbox as well. So they're both on
they
the same
own
roof.
Gearbox, so yes,
Yeah.
by extension, they own the IP.
Mm-hmm. So they
Okay.
are both under the same roof.
But it's still
Actually,
my.
you reminded me of something. Speaking of Duke Nukem, does Bulletstorm count under the category of boomer shooter?
Oh shit! I
Because
forgot
he
about
was also in that
Bulletstorm.
game.
It's funny you mentioned Bulletstorm because I was thinking about it today because it has like a lot of elements of a boomer shooter, but it's also like a Cliff
Gears of War.
Blazinski jerk off fest. So like I'm
Pretty much.
I'm like
Yeah.
50% on the. I fucking hate that guy. I'm like 50% on the fence because it's got some really cool stuff and it's got a quad barrel shotgun. It sounds like God slamming his car door when you fire it.
Wait, hold on.
Nice.
Does
Fun, dude. I love it.
Yeah,
It is
it's
a really
definitely
fun game.
got some
I
stuff.
like that you can just kick people
I-
into stuff and you can just do all of these creative ways of killing people. It's really fun.
Wait,
It's been
I-
years since I played that game. Good lord.
let me answer this with a question. Does Bulletstorm have regenerating health?
Uh,
I actually don't remember. Top of my head.
Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah, because if it has regen health, then I don't think that counts as a boomer shooter
I
for me.
think it
Like-
does, but I can't. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I
Like,
want to
for
say
me-
it does.
If a shooter doesn't have like health
Regenerating.
pickups or armor shit,
I
like,
do
it's not a
remember
boomer
like
shooter.
I do remember it had like didn't it have some kind of demo where it was like making fun of Modern Warfare 2 or something like
oh yeah, they did. They're
yeah.
totally making fun of Call of Duty.
bloody screen so real. That was hilarious. You ranked
It's
up
amazing.
Master Sergeant.
Like that's the thing I've noticed is like on one hand you could technically say it's a boomer shooter, but on the other hand it's just a fast-paced shooter.
Mm-hmm. Very fast, especially that fucking those last two chapters are like the most fast paced ever.
It's like now I'm just thinking about what all these games that are coming out. It's like, is it a boomer shooter or is it just a shooter?
Oh,
We don't
fuck.
know.
You know
Also,
what needs
like-
a remake really bad?
But I was just gonna say real
Just
quick
realized-
too.
Sure,
I,
go ahead,
I think I was just gonna say mentioning Bulletstorm. Like I think there was originally supposed to be like a sequel to it, but that never happened. Because like it kind of ended on a cliffhanger. I think.
It did end on a cliffhanger,
Yeah.
but oh,
Well, because all this talking about Bulletstorm just reminded me Unreal would be amazing.
Oh
To
yeah,
get
yeah.
a remake
Forgot
of
about Unreal.
Unreal.
I never played that
I always
game.
forget about Unreal because I just think about the engine. I think about Unreal Tournament because honestly, that's where all my hours went. But Unreal and Unreal 2 done in the current Unreal engine would be disgusting.
Yeah, we need Unreal Tournament 5. Because
yeah, Unreal 5.
You know, I completely forgot that Unreal Tournament was a thing because it's like you have games like Doom and Quake and all these other boomer shooters that took over. Everyone almost forgot about Unreal Tournament.
Yeah,
Well,
because
yeah,
the last
everybody
game
did.
was the last
I mean,
game
it pretty
was
much
on
is
the,
Unreal Engine, so
The last game was on the 360.
Well, it's not only that, but like in the recent years, and this is something that I lament because I'm an old person, but everything's been pushed towards matchmaking, and like custom servers aren't a thing that exist for many games anymore, unless they're like either hyper specialized or it's an older like community. You know, so you still have servers for like Quake enemy territory and for Wolfenstein enemy territory, which Bethesda actually just put servers back up for some reason. There's been community servers for 15 years, and Bethesda the other day was like, hey, it's Wolfenstein's birthday. We're just going to put some servers out there because play enemy territory. Haha, have fun.
I have a feeling Microsoft has something to do with that more so than Bethesda.
Probably.
I mean, it's possible, but that's the whole thing is like we're so. When I was in high school, that was the big thing. Was like when I was younger, it was Quake Deathmatch, and then it was Quake 3 Arena Deathmatch, and all that shit. And then, you know, getting into stuff like Counter-Strike and all that, it was all like server browsers and custom servers and all that kind of stuff. But that's kind of like gone away in the last like 10 years, except for, you know, like military shooters, like mil sims, and like more like lower population games. I think the last Call of Duty that had server browsers was like Black Ops, maybe. So it's been that long on PC. So I mean, a lot of this return to boomer shooter would be great if there was some kind of like server side stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons Unreal hasn't come back yet. Is because matchmaking in Unreal sounds like a goddamn nightmare. Like I do not want to matchmake with people. I want to go and hang out with like people I know on a server and like shit talk the same group of friends and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't really do that anymore. Now, if you shit talk somebody, you get squeakers.
Oh god.
You're
giving me.
I was gonna say,
Vietnam,
forget that.
You're giving me
Idiot, man.
Vietnam PTSD flashbacks to like Modern Warfare 2 lobbies and stuff.
Vietnam
age of
flashbacks
food
or good
talking.
memories?
The best
Those are
days.
The good old days, but also PTSD moments that can actually happen.
Everyone lined up to fuck my mom. It's crazy.
How dare they?
This is just 12-year-olds screaming, "Stop using noob tube," or what was it? Yeah, the noob tube or whatever. The
Yeah,
Well,
fuck
I was the one with the noob tube.
So you
I
were a
was
little
the
squeaker.
I was the 12-year-old with the noob tube.
Goddamn
have-
squeakers.
You just have squeakers going, I'm going to go fuck your mom. It's like, take a number.
Okay.
Let's move
So
on.
yeah, that's a great segue for number 7. Are there any boomer shooters in the 2010s that stick out to you? What are your favorites?
Were
Oh,
there
that's
any?
obvious.
Yeah.
2010s.
Yeah.
2010.
well, like-
so yes.
Yeah.
So Doom 2016.
Oh.
Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein 2.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything New Blood
Uh,
made like in the past few years?
I honestly just want to say, I kind of just want to say Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Yeah, I feel like the new order really kind of revitalized Wolfenstein, because before that it was like Wolfenstein, just a self-titled game like Wolfenstein
2009.
which it wasn't bad, but it wasn't that good either. So, but yeah, like, and then we had New Colossus, and then Young Blood, which was Jesus. That I hear bad things about that game. I haven't played it, but
So you don't play it, your life is actually good. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't waste
play it.
time.
isn't the
Don't
co-op
waste
for that
time.
like totally broken too? Like it's
Yeah, dude, it's really a broken game because it's so hindered around co-op. Even if you don't
Yeah.
play it with another friend, though, the AI is just garbage.
Yep.
Yeah.
So no, don't play the game. Honestly, God, don't play that shit.
Yeah, like
Go on.
I was gonna say, like Wolfenstein. When it came to Wolfenstein, the New Order and Old Blood were like the pinnacle of saying, "Yeah, Wolfenstein can return." Then we got New Colossus, where it just became like very, very patriotic, and it's just like,
Does everybody forget about the 2009 Wolfenstein that came out?
Oh,
Is
I
that
was
the
talking
one?
about that. Yeah,
Yeah, that was the one he was talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh man, that goddamn game.
like
Was it not that good?
it wasn't
No, it was
terrible,
great.
but
Oh, what?
yeah, like
I thought it was cool. It had this
Yeah.
like hub system to the world, and it had this upgrade system, and it had like this freeze time mechanic, and all this like weird little shit in it. Because they
It's more like
leaned
a supernatural game.
they leaned
Yeah.
really hard into the occult instead of with Return to Castle Wolfenstein leans into like aliens and the occult. Like you kind of get everything. Usually with Nazis, you get like one or the other.
Yeah.
But Wolfenstein 2009 leaned into supernatural really, really hard, and it was fucking cool. And then it just like disappeared. You can't buy it anywhere anymore.
yeah, it's really like for 2009.
is it
I
not
think
on
I
any
have-
like digital storefronts or something? Or-
No, I don't think
No.
so.
No,
Uh,
they pulled
on-
off
So
of
it's
all of
like, so technically it's abandonware then, right? Like,
it is abandonware, yeah.
Okay.
Abandonware
I-
that I happen to have an installer for on my computer for. So
I wanted to play it, but like, I only played the demo back during the 360 days.
I think I own it. I just need to double check if I do.
if you
But-
want it,
Did it have
I've
physical
got
copy?
It
It did.
came out at a time where there were still physical copies.
Yeah, it had
Yeah,
physical
Okay.
copy.
That's all. Then you still at least find it from that way. Assuming if it's expensive.
Let's see. Well, not really much for. Oh wait, I do have this game. It's for PS3.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on the consoles.
Oh, you get it for cheap actually. Freaking $12.
PC, if you want a brand fucking new, it's $90. This is with the physical.
Pirate's life for me.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
are
okay.
a
If you want
pirate.
it new, then yeah, it's expensive. But if you want it like used up, yeah, you get a good price out of it. So
Well, I was going to go back to Wolfenstein. How it's like New Colossus. Even though the gameplay was great, the story was not.
I
And
didn't
then
care
they
for the
made
story. Like the
And then
gameplay, I thought was okay. That like it kind of felt like in some ways a step back as well, but for the most part, I enjoyed the shooting parts, but yeah, like it was too cutscene heavy. I felt like it's focused too much on the story. The story wasn't great.
Heavy-handed the narrative.
Yeah, to say the very least.
Then you had fucking Cyberpilot, which only lasts for an hour, which they sold for $20, maybe more.
What is Cyberpilot? I never heard that.
Cyberpilot was the one where you take control of a
VR
mech.
game.
Yeah, it's for VR. You take control of a mech and you're just killing Nazis, but it only lasts for an hour.
That is so fucking stupid.
And then you have Youngblood, which is essentially like an epilogue to 2, where you play as his daughters, which nobody really enjoys that game.
I've heard only nothing but bad things about Youngblood.
Even when you play with someone that actually is competent enough to play a shooter, it's still bad.
I guess that's why they were selling it at such a discount too, because I think they're really trying to sell that game. I think I saw it for like not too long after it came out. I saw it was discounted like to $15 or $12, something like that.
Yeah, like down to 10. And it's like nobody wanted
They were
it.
just like, please buy this game, please. Nobody wants it.
It's a good game. It's a good game. We promise. What does it have? Oh, you can play it with co-op. Pass.
My favorite stuff that like sticks out are things that try to extend off of the genre but don't stray too far away from what makes it great. So there was a game that it just came out of early access last year, but it's been in early access for a few years now, called Nightmare Reaper.
That's a good one.
Combines boomer shooter style elements with like a loot system and a roguelike level design.
Yeah.
So you have level tiles and you have themed areas and all that kind of stuff. Your upgrade system is actually like playing a little Mario game on a Game Boy. And you can only bring, before upgrades, you can only bring one gun that you found in the previous level into the next one. And you get some weird stuff. Like you can get a chainsaw with a hook shot. You can get a revolver that shoots like cluster explosive rounds. And it's all randomized loot tables. So that was really good. And then there's another one called Project Warlock that's more like the original Wolfenstein.
Yeah, Project Warlock's good.
Yeah, it's almost has like a hexen kind of level up system where you have spells and guns that you can level up. And then besides the obvious ones like Ion Fury and Ultra Kill, I don't know if anyone here has played Hedon.
I don't think so.
Hedon,
it sounds familiar.
Or Hedon Blood, right? It's got a really hot orc girl on it.
I've seen that.
Head on, Hedon. I think it's called Hedon.
Hedon.
I think Head on is like this stick that you put on your head, right?
Head on Bloodfire.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Head on, Blood Right is absolutely incredible, and it's got an incredibly deep narrative, and it's made in GZ Doom, which again is super impressive for what's in the game itself. It's this really, really cool world and all that. That game sticks out super, super hard.
I mean, I think it's Dusk that sticks out the most, because I feel like games like Dusk and Ion Fury really helped revitalize the interest of old school boom shooters, but done in a retro way as well. Like shit, like Sulaco, like that's in the GZ Doom engine.
You know, it's funny. I actually completely forgot about Hedon until Divic was like, "Oh hey, it has a hot orc girl," and I was like, "Oh yeah, now I remember it."
Oh, that yeah, like that one.
That jogged your memory.
Yeah.
That was like the one thing that stood the fuck out, was like hot orc girl. I was like, okay, this looks interesting.
Wait,
Looked at the gameplay. Hedon.
Yeah,
Hedon?
Hedon.
Oh, so Eden with a freaking H.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen of it, it looked really good. I wanted to get it, but I never got a chance to get it.
Yeah.
Might change that later.
Do it.
You know, since we're like talking about, Eli just posted. God damn it.
Nice.
I'm just reminded like a lot of other things, but I think I'll discuss it later.
Okay. Anyone else?
No. What was the topic again?
I could go on for another hour talking like about each little thing that has come out that has been fucking awesome in the last 10 years, but I'm going to spare everybody that because I already do it enough in the Discord.
Oh, that's all good.
Depends on the game.
So for number 8, who wants to take that one?
I'll take it.
Okay.
What is the most important shooter that propelled the genre forward, in your opinion? That's a loaded question for this topic.
Very, because there's a lot. Like some people could say Wolfenstein, some people could say Quake, some could say Doom.
I can't even. I don't have enough experience to even answer that one. So
Let's break it down.
I would say this. Which game do you think was the most influential?
Well, that's still a hard one though, because like again, you gotta break it down to which era and whatnot. Because Wolfenstein was the first one, right?
I was
And
gonna say
what's the
probably
popular one?
Wolfenstein 3D, but
and also to continue what Brandon said, and also it depends on what engine you're talking about, though.
it doesn't have to be engine. Just in general, it just overall did it.
Well, I'm just saying.
I want to say, even though Wolfenstein did, I kind of want to sit on Doom.
Because
Doom made the series popular. Quake was the competitive thing. It was the thing, you know. Then Unreal came out. Then you got Halo for the most part.
Yeah,
and Half-Life for the narrative side of things.
If it wasn't for, sorry, God,
I say like for the Revive era right now, we got like the Wolfenstein and Doom, and then the indie scene you got Ion Fury and what's the other one? Dusk.
Dusk. Anything from New Blood, essentially.
Ion Fury is 3D Realms.
Well, also you could also think about like
3D Realms has also been kind of killing it since like they just announced Phantom Fury, the follow-up to Ion Fury.
Yep. That's why I was also going to mention that like the build, like any engines, like if you look at the build engine, a lot of people seem to talk about Duke Nukem, never Blood or Shadow Warrior, unless you talk about the reboots. But because you got games like Duke Nukem, then you got games like Ion Fury, now Phantom Fury later. And it shows that could still keep going with that engine. But if we're talking about for like the sake of the genre, probably at best we would probably say Doom.
I would say that in terms of like what came before, like I would say Quake, just for that. If it wasn't for Quake, we wouldn't really have that many 3D shooters. Like,
I would push that further and say we wouldn't have any 3D games because like that moment when Quake came out. So Doom, when Doom came out, it was super impressive at the time. It was fucking crazy because there's all these little tricks in the engine to do layering, different floors, to have depth, all that kind of shit. But then Quake, having fully 3D environments, being able to put things in those environments, moving in and around the screen, putting sprites into the game, because that's when sprites started to get used, was in that, and then pretty soon in Half-Life, which is a variation, Gold Source is a variation of the Quake engine. I challenge anybody who is tech savvy to dig into any engine specs or just like kind of a general overview of engines in this day and age and not find just a tiny bit of Quake's DNA in there, like hands down. If you want to talk about something propelling the genre forward, Wolfenstein, when it came out, pretty adorable. Doom at the time, again, incredibly impressive, but Quake is like, that's the moment all that shit changed. When you could put all of this in a 3D space that looks like, a real environment, like that's the crazy shit.
I agree.
This is just one old man's opinion, so don't.
No. I agree for that because, like,
it's just a boomer's opinion.
I've been playing through like Quake 1 and Quake 2, fantastic games. Like, no, I can't like. I've been listening to like the music as well. Like,
the music is great, but I mean, if you look at Quake and you look at that very simple blueprint that Quake provides, I mean, look at almost any other of the kind of boomer shooter games that have come out in the last few years, and they're either emulating Doom or, I mean, sometimes quite literally built within Doom engine, or they're taking Quake for inspiration. Dusk, having been mentioned a few times, Dusk is Quake. Like, that is straight up fucking Quake.
Also a medieval in terms of like atmosphere and like level selection.
a medieval is like Hexen version of Quake. When was I thinking? Oh god, I was thinking of something else, and now I just lost it. But almost everything comes out, even the new Postal game, the Postal Brain Damage, like that's straight up Quake.
So yeah, it's straight up fucking boomer shooter. I'm so glad that they went like that's actual Postal 4.
I'm just so glad that they actually did Postal Brain Damage because that game is so much better than 4.
Yeah. Also, I think we should chill out Hyperstrange for just a second because they've been making some other games as well, like Blood West. I'd recommend anyone to go check that out on Steam.
Is that's the immersive sim like stealthy one, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, that game's really fun.
Yeah.
What game was it?
Blood West.
Oh yeah, you were saying about that. That looked really good.
It's from the same guys who made Brain Damage.
Also, I'm not gonna lie, Postal Brain Damage was a lot better than 4 when it comes to humor.
Any takes?
I kind of have a question though.
Yeah.
Is Postal, except for 3, because nobody talks about 3, would Postal 2 be considered a boomer shooter, or is that more like a shooter?
Oh, it's in this weird spot because you're talking post Half-Life. It's also
in Source.
It's also one of the most crass things ever to exist, which is part of its charm. I don't know.
At least it's more humorous than 1.
Because 1 is depressing, but like
one's a different beast.
In moments where you are doing shooting, it's really not that great, and then in other moments you're like lighting people on fire and then peeing the fire out. So I mean, I don't know. It's kind of
penis is a boomer shooter.
Yeah, exactly. Your wiener is a gun, so it's kind of like
self-basting.
I would say yes, just because it does tick off several things that do make up a boomer shooter, like a good arsenal, health and armor pickups.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why I asked that. But that one, I just felt it was more like a dark comedy game.
Kinda, yeah, it is.
But I have nothing else after that. That was the only thing I had to ask.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else for number 7 or number 8? I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say that's number 8, dude.
No.
Okay.
I think 9 is my question. Someone could take that one.
I mean, I could take 9.
I got you.
Okay.
Do modern shooters bring anything of substance to the shooter genre versus boomers? Honestly,
yeah. Might be somewhat of an interesting question, at least.
I would say yes. Like from a narrative, like how they handle narratives. Like boomer shooters is just raw gameplay for the most part with minimal interruptions. Versus them incorporating like different stuff, like how narratives or different genres, like musical stuff, like Metal Hellraiser, for example.
Oh yeah.
So they can though, but it's kind of a good broad question to ask, I guess.
That's what I was going to bring up, though.
I would say yes as well, because aside from boomer shooters, we have stuff like tactical shooters where you have to implement strategy and actually, not that you don't do that to some extent in boomer shooters, but basically it's more about how to carefully approach a situation and not get killed immediately.
Like you have punished for it.
Boomers are more like how good is your movement?
I was thinking
while
more like
shooting,
Rainbow Six or Ghost Recon or something like that.
Oh, Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those games are more punishing.
Or like the SWAT games.
The SWAT games are extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
Brutal. Extremely brutal.
Brutal.
Well, the thing with modern shooters, and again, this is an oldster's take, but like I'm used to flying around at light speed. So I'm used to like smacking my spacebar constantly and bunny hopping across arenas and rocket jumping, hitting somebody in the face, and then rocket jumping away. So like when modern shooters started to come out, there's a part of me that loves the slow tactical approach to stuff, but it's almost too slow. And I know you guys have heard me talk about Titanfall quite a few times, and Tribes falls into that category as well, more so than Titanfall. But like Tribes being old school shooter, very, very fast paced, Titanfall kind of brought some of that into their own formula. So it was the closest thing I could get to playing something in a modern engine, which it was Source 2 of all things. that still had that kind of boomer shooter feel where I could fly across the level and like swing my mouse around and hit somebody in the face with a 50 cal and just keep going, like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Also bringing up, and this is going to be an old person sounding complaint, but bringing up my gun so that it obscures 90% of my fucking view so that I can look through the peephole. Like, I don't care 90% of the time. If you give me the option to shoot from the hip, I'm going to shoot from the hip every fucking time. Because it slows you down, and it's just, you know, I go to play boom shoot and just shooters in general for like speed, weapon feel, and like just being able to blister through stuff. So if I can't do that, that kind of fucks with me a little bit. That being said, I've got respect for like the way narrative is handled in first person games, mostly from Half-Life, a little bit from Halo, because it definitely feels like a lot more epic. But Half-Life doing the, you know, story in a first person shooter, it's not like the John Carmack quote, right? Where what he said, story in games is like story in a porno. Like you expect it to be there, but it's really not important.
That is like fucking milk.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
both directions.
Well, no, it's pretty funny because I understand where he's coming from a game design point of view, saying put the gameplay first. Like that's going to be the main focus. So like I get that, because when Carmack has worked on things, that's been the primary focus is gameplay, and that dude is retardedly smart. But yeah, people, you know, misconstrue the quote all the time. But that's like the whole thing is the primary thing for shooters of that era, and what people are focusing on now with shooters is like how it feels to move, how it feels to shoot, how it feels to interact with environments and take on like different types of enemies. Like that's the big focus. Modern games lost that for a really long time because everything became generic military shooter after Modern Warfare came out. But now that it's coming back, it's so fucking great. And it feels really good to be able to have the option, right? I never really had a problem with military shooters, but having the option of being able to play a military shooter or jump into something like Dusk and just bunny hop around and do backflips and hit people with crossbows or whatever the fuck, like excellent. So Modern kind of fucked with the industry for a while, but seeing as how indie developers are like bringing boomer shooters back, it's kind of like, oh, you know, it's a moot point at this point in time.
Yeah, I
guess ed tech as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can't not get mad at the industry going behind a particular like trend or idea for a while, because if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have a resurgence as well. So like, while we may not like it though, I cannot say I can't doubt it, you know, because things happen for a reason, I guess.
This industry will go through many more phases, and I feel like now that we're going back to a mix between we have modern stuff and now we have retro stuff coming out like it's new again. I guess time is a flat circle in that regard. I feel like this cycle's always going to repeat itself. We want something new. All right, it's been 10 years. Can we get something else now? And we keep going back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing a lot. And like the whole thing about narrative, if we didn't get games like Half-Life 2 or just Half-Life or Halo, we wouldn't have really much narrative for shooters. But
Halo definitely pushed it pretty hard back in the day.
Yep.
As far as the console space, yeah, but I would say Half-Life was more the popular one when it comes to.
If you want to split it between, I would say Halo did it for consoles, and for PC, yeah, Half-Life just really pushed it.
Yeah. And it kind of gave way for shooters to be like, to slow things down. It's like, hey, you've been shooting terrorists for long enough. Enjoy the story. Or in some cases, like Divic was saying, though, it's like sometimes it's like you have to slow down. It's like you have to aim down the gun, aim your target, shoot your target, miss your target, curse at the game, aim again, shoot, hit your target, curse the game some more because you're like, I made that shot the first time, and then rinse and repeat. But like, and then there's like going back to the whole retro thing. Then there are some boomer shooters that take things differently. Take, for example, Fashion Police Squad, where it's a boomer shooter, but instead of guns, it's like fashion stuff, like a fucking sewing machine or a belt.
I would say technology has come a long way since like the old engine and the Doom engine, where that people can make whatever the fuck they want to now in those engines.
Well, and that's kind of the thing too, is like with the resurgence of, you know, old school shooters coming back, and Doom modding being very popular. This has kind of been going on in the Doom community for a really long time. Is people are trying to find like the big like breakout Doom mod that everybody talks about and makes me ill whenever I hear it is Brutal Doom. And everybody acts like that's like the best mod ever. It's not. So people have had to work really hard to try and make something that's different from that while still maintaining like something that's visceral and will capture people's attention. Kind of the same thing going on with boomer shooters. Like if you look at something like, Ultra Kill, for example, Ultra Kill is fucking great. Ultra Kill is Doom Eternal on steroids. That game filtered the shit out of me the first time I played it.
It filtered me and I still haven't gone back.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Or, Dusk has a lot of the same stuff that Quake has, but it also has enough to distinguish itself where Dusk is its own unique experience, kind of apart from everything else, and so on and so forth. Or people just make really fucking weird games like Cruelty Squad.
Oh God, don't remind me
that
of
kind
that
of shit. So I mean, it's really exciting at this point because everyone's kind of seen what they're working off of. Everyone kind of has the templates, Doom, Quake, build engine games, all that. And everyone's kind of branching out into their own little spots. So like, Fashion Police Squad, where you're shooting people with like a sewing gun, all the way to a medieval taking its, melee weapons and making them these projectile weapons in this really weird Lovecraftian universe. Like the experimentation is off the fucking walls. It's fantastic.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Unless anyone else wants to go, we can move on to question 10.
You suck. Let's move on.
Okay. Levy, why don't you take that?
I was going to say, there's been a few different series stepping into the boomer shooter genre over the last few years. Warhammer 40K being the latest one. What series would you like to see step into this kind of game? That's kind of hard to say, really.
Call of Duty. Let's go. Let me jump around.
No, I was going to say Halo. Imagine Halo just going...
Halo's practically almost there anyway with Infinite. Just need its software to come in and make it, and it'll be better.
The only thing Halo needs is like fucking health and armor pickups. Like it's got the regenerating health.
Well, no, it's shield, not health.
Yeah.
Well, no, there is. Well, you did pick up health in Halo 1 at least.
In the first
Halo 1 and 3 and Reach. No, 3 didn't have it either.
Yeah.
I did see the trailer for Warhammer 40K bolt gun, and it looks so good.
Bolt gun and fucking Dark Tide, the new one that's coming out, like made me want to get into Warhammer.
Final Fantasy.
That looks pretty good.
As well as Hired Gun.
Hired Gun's okay. Like I played a little bit of it, but it's kind of rough at times. But yeah, it's. I
want to go back to it, but it fucking almost crashed my fucking desktop.
You know what? I don't think about it too often because it's more for me a lot of the time, because I've seen a lot of mods and stuff like that. It's more fun to see original IPs venture into kind of the boomer shooter area, or just people come up with weird stuff. Like I was talking about I was playing a golfing Doom mod. there's a Doom mod where that's like Sonic. There's a Silent Hill Doom mod. I mean, there's stuff out there that does not even look like Doom that sits within that boomer shooter category because of how it's built. But like, do a Dino Crisis boomer shooter. Do something silly like that. Just take Dino Crisis 2 and dial it up to 11 and put it in boom shoot. Just throw it in the Doom engine. Fuck it.
It almost sounds like Turok when you say that now.
Yeah, basically, I would play the fuck out of that. Like, give me something weird like that. Make a Blood Rain boomer shooter. I don't fucking care. I was going
to say Turok is another series.
Anything with rain in it works for me.
Turok is another series I'd like to see come back. They did try to do that with the that one reboot, but
it went nowhere.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So, I mean, with boomer shooters becoming a thing again, like I feel like that it's as good a time as any to bring Turok back if they were going to do that.
Oh shit! You know what? It just kind of hit me. Just thought about it. Would you count Time Splitters?
Oh,
Oh, good question.
I didn't.
man,
I was
it's-
like, I love Time Splitters. I didn't even think about that. It's super arcadey.
Time Splitters is right on the cusp because it's kind of it's Free Radical, right? It's the same people essentially that worked on like GoldenEye and it's like rare people that jumped ship, right? Because it feels the same. So I don't know. Like I always thought GoldenEye, being strictly a console shooter, was pretty much it's that same era and it's that same kind of feeling. So like absolutely. I mean,
because like it has a narrative. Like 2 was the one that started up having a narrative, but like other than like the opening cutscene per level, there's no interruption of gameplay. So
yeah.
That opens up another discussion for arcades. God, yeah, but sorry, that's irrelevant.
do love me some Time Splitters.
It's like there's like a lot of games that you could think of that could be a good boomer shooter, but then you think about it more as like, but would it though?
Make a Devil May Cry boomer shooter. I don't give a shit. Like give me.
I already have one.
Dante's already a boomer.
There's a mod for Doom called Guncaster that's basically Devil May Cry. You know, you've got spells and all this other crazy shit that you're doing.
Man, we
But,
have Gungrave for that.
Refine that a little bit more. Boom. I'll take that in boomer shooter format. That sounds fucking awesome.
Make a Metroid boomer shooter.
That would be fun. But I don't
whenever Time Splitters comes back, since it's supposed to come back eventually. So I think they announced that. If they don't got Vin Diesel doing that shit for Sergeant Cortez, I'll be very disappointed.
Vin Diesel?
Yeah. Have you never seen Sergeant Cortez?
Yeah, Vin Diesel looks a lot like.
If you look at
He
Sergeant
does.
Cortez, he is like a clone of Vin Diesel. Like they have to have modeled him off of him. There's no way.
Okay.
Super.
Yeah,
I
I
forget
would
which Joe. What's this game series called? Reddick, was it?
Yeah, Reddick.
Chronicles of Riddick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually him. In the game, yeah.
I heard those games were good, but I never had the chance to.
Yeah, the Escape from Butcher Bay is really good. I still need to play Assault on Dark Athena.
Nice. Okay. So if that's it. Oh, that's Sergeant Cortez in the chat.
Yeah, it does look a lot like him.
It does.
No, hear me out. Stick those dumb-looking goggles on him and tell me it's not the same thing.
If only.
You just get Riddick.
Riddick with goggles.
He already has goggles.
He already has goggles. It's Riddick.
It is.
Now I want
You
a Time
fool!
Splitters movie with him. That's all I want now. It doesn't even have to be good.
It's just a crossover between that and Riddick
It's
and
gonna-
Time Splitter.
It's the video game to movie adaptation curse. It probably won't be good.
Yeah, but this is the one time the casting would actually work.
They'll just get an Asian to play him, and it's like, oh yeah, diversity.
He's white.
Okay. Not here.
Yeah, let's
Jesus.
let's move on to number 11. Just close us off.
No
in your
time
opinion, what led to the resurgence of the boomer shooter in recent years?
I think it's already said.
I guess because people really miss those old school things. Because in the last decade or so, like we have all these heavy cutscenes, heavy military, heavy this, heavy that. People just want the raw gameplay experience, at least raw as possible, right?
Mhm.
So I think again, with thanks to id Software and Bethesda with Wolfenstein, with Doom, and of course the indie scene with Ion Fury, really brought back that old timey feeling.
I think
You know,
it's
more
also.
outlets.
I think it's also because like in the 20, I would say around like 2008 onwards or so, like there was just this oversaturation of, mostly because of Call of Duty, but military shooters and stuff.
Yep.
And people were fine with that for a time, but they started to get tired of it. So I feel like a lot of people they just wanted to go back to the boomer shooter. So I think that probably is one of the things that led to it.
There were a lot of COD clones, and I was
Yeah.
very into that scene back in the day because
And it sucks.
I was an early teen. I didn't know any better.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of pissed me off too because like Medal of Honor, which is a series I grew up with, started to fucking try to copy COD, and
that turned out
didn't
really
go
well.
so well for them. Yeah.
Nah.
Medal of Honor, Warfighter. Best
But,
game.
I didn't play Warfighter.
Yeah.
I played that reboot, but I didn't play Warfighter.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. The oversaturation of military shooters and cover-based third-person shooters.
That's it.
Just all of that, like slowing everything down to the point where like it's one thing to slow a game down like Rainbow Six, and I mean OG Rainbow Six, not like Siege, but like OG Rainbow Six, like Rogue Spear, even Vegas to a degree. Slowing everything down in a tactical shooter is one thing, but slowing everything down in what amounts to an arcade shooter, because at the end of the day, that's what COD is. It's an arcade shooter. Is like people will get sick of that. It is just like the World War II fatigue, like you were talking about, where World War II, and then it's like, okay, we got to do something different, and then everything was modern military after that. But now, you know, Doom 2016 comes out, and it surprises the shit out of everybody, and everyone goes, oh, this is what we've been missing out on, because there's a whole slew, there's a generation of people that never played the old Doom or Quake or any of those old shooters. And so now you see this resurgence of boomer shooters, and it's like the CRPG resurgence, because everybody got tired of having like the BioWare RPG, basically. And so you see this resurgence of isometric RPGs, which, being a fan of both of those genres, I am living in like the best time right now. And we're about to have a fucking horror resurgence this year with all the shit that's coming out. So it's like the gifts keep on giving. It's just it's never getting old. But yeah, fatigue on modern military shooters is probably the biggest one. And Doom 2016, both of those are probably directly responsible for the resurgence of ye old boom shoot.
Yeah. Also, can I get a Winnie the Pooh boomer shooter, since, you know, he's free real estate?
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
my
true.
God.
I really do want to see
got
that
a-
blood.
He's
and
already
Honey
got a horror game, or not horror game, horror
Movie.
movie. You might, as well
Movie.
you might as well do a shooter out of it.
I'd play the shit out of that.
Oh bother! Guess I gotta get my gat again.
Sorry, Rabbit.
I'm sorry, Piglet.
There was
I can't hit him.
way back on the old internet forums of yore, there was a meme around Christmas time. There was this Winnie the Pooh game. It was a Flash game that was up on like some Japanese site or something like that. But it was like a baseball game. And it started out easy enough. You were against like Eeyore and Rabbit and all that kind of stuff. And then like you were against Christopher Robin, who literally the ball would be on the screen for like a single frame. And people were making like the funniest fucking jokes, like Senator Armstrong jokes of Christopher Robin coming up to Winnie the Pooh dressed as Raiden kind of shit. It's the only thing I can ever think about when I see that stupid fucking bear. But I would love to see a boomer shooter where you're like throwing pots of honey or just dumb shit like that. Like give me a bee gun or something dumb. Be the best.
You guys are insane.
Man, that
Who
should be
kills?
Who cares?
the 100 Acre Wood Massacre.
Oh, come on.
Why'd you leave us, Christopher Robin?
Okay. Closing this podcast on that.
All right.
James, where can we find you?
On Twitter at DevilHunterJames.
Okay. Divic, how about you? Where can we find you at?
On the Discord and at Divic. Don't expect anything of quality.
Okay. Levy, how about you?
YouTube, Twitter, as Eviga. Maybe Twitch.
Okay. Chaos, how about you?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitter at just KaptainKaos, and you can also find me on Instagram as Enigmatic Arts, where I post my artwork.
And Brandel.
Twitter, Immortal Brandel. I have a link tree in my bio. Everyone else is none of your goddamn business.
Fantastic. And you can find me on Twitter at Gamma Alias.
Unfortunately.
That's it for this podcast. Everyone have a good night.
Yeah.